Hi there. Hello, my name is Destiny and this is Des Sits and Knits podcast, where I talk about knitting and sewing and spinning. Yeah, I forgot to do that. I do spin, yes. Anyways, hello. It's been quite a while since I last filmed. I filmed, I think, on June 1st. And I was planning on making it a monthly thing, but a lot has happened in the last 2.5 months. If you're new here, I will have my Instagram and Ravelry linked down below. I'm not very active on either. I kind of go in waves where I'm very passionate about updating all my projects and posting on Instagram, and then I just am not interested. So you can follow those if you want, but if you missed my last podcast, we moved across the country in May with, it was me, my husband, and our 3 kids, and a lot of animals. And yeah, it's been very busy trying to settle in and fix up a house when you are alone with 3 kids, but we're making it happen. Anyways, I haven't filmed a podcast recently because I just haven't made time for it, but also I didn't really knit at all in the month of June. Wasn't really feeling it. There was just so much going on, and it wasn't making me, it was kind of stressing me out to knit more than it was relaxing me. And so I just didn't do it. I didn't start knitting until like the last few days of June. And I was gonna film just a little podcast on July 1st just to kind of talk about what I worked on. However, July 1st, my husband went upstairs to where my craft room was at the time, and there was a mouse in it, our first mouse that we had found in the house. And he destroyed my craft room, tore it apart trying to find this mouse, which he never did. The mouse is still missing, and I just took it as an omen not to fix it. And then we've been working so hard painting different rooms of the house and trying to work on little projects here and there, and so I just haven't had time. And then I have family coming tomorrow. My sister, her boyfriend, and my grandparents are going to be visiting us for a week, which I'm very excited about. So I have to get this filmed today because I will not have time, and then, you know, when they leave, it'll be practically September. And so I'm trying to do this now because I have a ton of projects to show you. I knit a lot in July. I haven't been knitting as much in August because I've been having a lot of neck and shoulder pain, which has been really unfortunate, but I have a lot of finished objects to show you. I'm a very speedy knitter. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that I just think that people should be aware because I do have 3 very young children. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. And I don't have that much knitting time. My husband works nights, so when the kids go to bed, I don't really have time to be knitting then either. I will go like 3 to 4 days a week without knitting, and then I'll knit like on his days off. And I just am a very speedy knitter. I take as much like advantage of the time I have. And so I feel like people look at these projects and think I must spend all my time knitting, but I don't. I have a lot to take care of and maintain. And so as much as I do wish I could knit for hours every day like I used to before we moved, I absolutely don't have the time, and I spend most days not knitting at this point. I should probably start talking about knitting, but I just have a lot of life updates. We've been doing a lot of painting. This house was, like, we joke that it was the 50 Shades of Blue house because every single wall was a different shade of blue when we got here. And it was very unsettling, and I love the color blue, and I had played with the idea of painting certain walls in the house blue before we moved here. My youngest son's middle name is Blue, and I love his name, and so I was thinking of doing like a little accent wall for him. But I cannot tell you how much I have started to hate blue walls. I absolutely loathe them, and we will not be painting any walls blue. I can tell you that right now. And then our bedroom was painted different shades of green, and green is my favorite color. Most things that I knit is green. It's my favorite color to wear, and I also now hate green walls. Can't stand to look at them. Blue and green are just not it for me. But anyways, my craft room was upstairs, and this is a little downstairs bedroom. I painted it a month ago and then moved everything downstairs. That was a slow transition. We're switching rooms around, trying to figure out what's gonna work best for our family, and all the painting has really messed up my neck and shoulders. It has just pretty much ruined them. And then I'm also carrying around 3 kids all day, baby wearing. We've been doing a lot more walking and hiking, and they're just pretty destroyed. So I've been trying really hard to like not push myself not knitting because I've been getting horrible tension headaches. So anyways, that was a long way to say that I have a lot from July, but I have worked on hardly anything in August. But anyways, let's jump into finished objects because I've been talking for over 5 minutes and we haven't shown any knitting. So my first finished object, I showed it in my last podcast. I was making a half and half triangles wrap for my grandma out of Pearl Soho linen quill. She picked 2 shades of blue. I'm just gonna tell you this now, I'm not a yarn color person. Like, I will probably not be sharing most of the colorway names with you because I don't write them down, and it's not something that matters to me, and I don't write them down, so I don't have them to tell you. But she picked 2 shades of linen quill, and I did get that finished. I modded that shawl to make it DK weight because personally I don't love wearing fingering weight things unless it's a pair of socks or color work. I find the fabric to be like way too thin for what I prefer, and the idea of knitting a fingering weight garter stitch shawl just didn't really appeal to me. So I held the yarn double, I went up needle sizes, and I cast on less stitches. I believe I cast on about 120 stitches, and it turned out being a really beautiful size. I was super happy with it. I'm not a shawl person. I've never knit myself a shawl. I've never had a desire to, but once it was finished and blocked, I tried it on, and I was like, this actually, I felt like Alice from Resident Evil, if you're a fan of that movie. I just felt very like post-apocalyptic, and I actually really enjoyed it. Before I had kids, I was very into cosplaying, and I don't know, it was just very funny to put that on and then to feel like one of the characters I used to cosplay as. I really liked it. So I could see myself knitting a shawl in the future. I probably wouldn't knit like a big square shawl. It'd probably be like just a triangle one. But I did get that finished, sent to her. She was very, very happy with it, and I have some pictures which I can share with you, and I'll just put it somewhere on the screen. But that was pretty much the only thing I finished. I finished that just like the first few days of June, and then I didn't really knit it all except for I pushed myself to finish this pair of socks because I had pretty much finished them in May, and all I really had to do was cut it and add in heels and toes. So I showed these in the last podcast, but these are self-striping socks, self-striping yarn that I knit into socks. And this colorway is the Balrog from Tiny Human Knits. She was doing a Lord of the Rings collection, and there's a long story about me getting this yarn, but I just love it so much, and it's just so good. So I did, what did I do? I think I did a 56 stitch sock. When I'm knitting socks, I either do 52 or 56 stitches. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. I'm an extremely relaxed knitter. And I've been working really hard to tighten my gauge and kind of change the style that I throw my yarn because I'm an English style knitter, and it's been getting better, so I've been able to kind of move up to that 56 stitch count, but it really just depends. And with this sock, actually, when I started knitting it, it was really loose, and towards the end of it you can see my gauge get really nice and even, which was very exciting for me. But I bought a 50-gram sock set from Tiny Human Knits of this yarn. I can get a pair of socks out of 50 grams perfectly for me. That's my preferred, because when I get 100 grams I feel like it's just too much and I'm done with it, and I don't want like obviously super long socks. So this is a 50-gram sock set. I wear a size 10 women's shoe, and yeah, it's pretty perfect. I knit a sock too because I like to use up every single bit of yarn that I have, and I cast on with the contrast color with the ribbing, and then I knit just a straight tube, cast off doing the other cuff. I typically do 14 rounds of ribbing for my cuff in 2x2. That's my favorite. However, when I went to do this one, I was going to the movies and it was too dark for me to count, so I think I only ended up with 12 rounds of ribbing, which is fine. And then after I did my sock tube, I cut it in half, added the toes, and then added in the heels. This was my first afterthought heel, and I absolutely love it. My go-to heel, which you'll see, is a, oh, what is it called? A shadow wrap heel. If you don't know what it is, you can look up that tutorial on YouTube. That's my go-to one. I really enjoy knitting it. I despise doing a heel flap and gusset. I found that when I was knitting socks with the heel flap and gusset, I would get to the heel, I would pick up the stitches, and the idea of doing those gusset decreases really turned me off. I did not enjoy it, and I would never finish a sock past that point. I would have so many sitting there with just like the leg and the heel done. But when I switched heels, now I fly through them. I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy how an afterthought heel fits. So I'm gonna try to add a few more of these. This sock is a little tiny bit long for me. My measurement was just a bit off. They still fit totally fine, but I could have definitely made it a few rows shorter. And this is actually a really long leg for me. I usually keep my legs on my socks about here, but again, 50-gram sock set, used up every single bit of yarn, and I love it. I knit my socks on a US size 0 Magic Loop Chagu needle. And they're just super fast and fun for me. I really enjoy knitting socks. They're just, I don't know, I love it. I can usually get a pair of socks done in about 3 days if I'm actually like actively knitting on it, and this is my favorite thing to take out with me when I'm hanging out with my friend or when we're in the car, places like that. They're just so simple to pull out. So there's that. Okay, my next finished object. So I live in Indiana, and I actually found a really beautiful yarn store that is pretty local to me. It's called Blueberry Cottage Yarn. I think it's in Plymouth, Indiana, and it's not super, I mean, it's not like, you know, hey, let me walk up there real quick, but it's relatively close. And yeah, I was so excited. I went there with my friend in June, and I found this wool, and it is, I believe it's called shepherd's wool. Don't quote me on that. It is actually spun and milled in Michigan, like just a little bit away. We're very close to the border of Michigan, so it's very local to me, and yeah, I just loved it so much. So I bought a skein in this beautiful green color. It's pretty marled. There's like light and dark green, and this is just like exactly me. I love it so much. I believe it was worsted weight. I can't tell you for certain though, because it didn't say on the ball band, but I would say that it was DK to worsted, maybe a light worsted. And I believe the color was like ivy green. I could be incorrect on that though. But I knit up the Pip beanie by Northside Knit Co. I've knit this beanie several times, and I really like it. I cast on, I think I cast on the biggest size because I thought that this would be good for me and my husband to share, and my kids. We all have, me and my husband have pretty small heads, and my kids actually have large heads, so we can all share beanies as long as I knit them long enough. So I just added several inches of length to this so that my husband would fit into it if he needed to wear it, and then, you know, me and the kids can always just make it longer. I really love knitting hats. I think they're something that we all wear so much. Very versatile, and they fit the family. Pretty much all of us. Maybe my youngest not as much, but he actually has worn this beanie several times, so I'm lying to you right now, but it's just a nice 2x2 rib. I do modify this pattern a lot when I knit it, and I actually change usually the needle size and the stitch count, and I have a reason for doing it. It's because when I'm knitting a 2x2 rib beanie and there's decreases, I like the decreases to follow one of the knit rows, and naturally in the pattern it doesn't do that, and so I have to flip it, like twist, move my stitches and cast on different amounts to get it, because there's only 2 spots where they decrease, and I like it to make a really nice line. So I do actually change this pattern and the cast on number and the decreases every single time I knit it, so do with that what you will, but that's my preferred look for a beanie. I don't think I have anything else to say, but when I was at the Blueberry Cottage Yarn, I also, of the same yarn, I got 2 skeins of this color. This color I believe was called Milk Chocolate, and here's why I remember it, because in the store it was very dimly lit. I do find it to be a bit of an odd choice for a yarn store where you're picking out colors, but there was not like much lighting at all. They had really set the mood, and this color was called Milk Chocolate, and like in the store I was like, this is like a beautiful taupey shade of brown, and you can see that this is gray. I actually really despise the color gray. I don't like to put gray or black on my children. I'm very weird about it. It's not my thing. I love to do like browns or neutrals or soft colors, but I hate to do brown or gray, gray or black. This one is okay because it does pull like more of a brownish gray, but yeah, anyways, so I had 2 skeins of this, and I knit my daughter a pair of long johns. I don't know what the pattern's called. I don't know who designed it, and I don't think it matters that much because I did not follow the pattern. I didn't follow the cast on amount. I didn't follow any of it. I kind of just like looked at the picture on the pattern and say, I think I can make this work. So I cast on 50 something stitches for the leg, bottom up, and knit until I tried it on her and it was long enough. And then I cast on enough stitches, I believe it was about 9 or so, to keep it in pattern. Just in this is a 3x3 rib. And then I knit straps. I just did it in garter stitch. The original pattern has something different, but the buttonholes I did do double knit fabric. Yeah, very easy. I can't tell you what needle size I used. I don't even know. Like I said, I'm a very relaxed knitter, especially with ribbing. I tend to get laddering in my ribbing. I didn't on these. These actually look really nice. Like, I'm very happy with how my ribbing looks. But a lot of times when I'm doing anything other than a 1x1 rib, I get some pretty intense laddering on my knit stitches. And so I remember looking at the pattern, and I cast on for the size my daughter should have been, like a 2-3 or something. And I was like, with my tension, like, this is gonna be gigantic. So I had to rip it out, and I like reduced a ton of stitches to make sure this would fit, and they look super cute on her. I can put a picture on the screen. Very excited for her to wear these when it gets cooler, and I think that I'm gonna make a few more pairs for my youngest. But I'm going to just make up my own pattern, and I'm gonna do it top down. I really hate doing bottom up pants. I've done it several times. It does not bring me joy at all, but these are them, and they are long enough that they will fit her for a while, or my littlest one can wear it next year. And they're cuffed at the bottom, which I actually didn't want. I didn't want it to be rolled at the bottom. I feel like that's just a little too bulky for her. She's quite short, but I did knit them a little bit long, so here they are. And like I said, these are knit out of that same like shepherd's wool that was made in Michigan. And it's non-superwash wool, which I prefer. So there, those are super cute. I just sewed on some buttons. I do need to change, I think, the straps a little bit to fit her better, or I might just crisscross them in the back so they stay a little bit better on her shoulder. But these were very cute, and they were super fast. They took me hardly any time at all. Okay, what do we have next? I will show you a pair of socks. So, for my birthday, my friend Emily got me a skein of yarn from a yarn store by us. I think it was from a yarn store by us, but it's a little bit farther. It's about like an hour away. The yarn dyer, it's a hand-dyed yarn. It's called Emma's Yarn. I believe the colorway just said January 2022. And this is the most beautiful yarn I have ever knit up. I was having just such a fun time doing this. I don't really buy hand-dyed yarn. It's just not in my budget, but I do for socks. Like, I love to get self-striping yarn and hand-dyed yarn for socks because it's only one skein, and I can usually get, if I'm knitting for my family, I can get a pair for me and all 3 of my kids out of one skein of yarn if I do contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs, which is super fun. I did it for our Disney socks. And if I'm not doing the kids, I can get a pair of socks for me and then a pair of shorties for my husband. So I think it's really worth it, and it's just fun to have those colorful socks. Anyways, I will show you the yarn now. I hope that it shows up good, but this is just the most beautiful yarn. I love it so much, I can't even tell you. So like I said, I believe this is called Emma's Yarn, and it has so many colors. So for these socks, I did a little different. I did my typical 2x2 cuff for 14 rounds. Then I did 3x1 ribbing all the way down. I did a shadow wrap heel, and then for the actual foot, I just did stockinette on the bottom and kept ribbing on the top, and then I did my typical toe. And this is like my perfect length of socks. This is what I like it to be. I'm actually not a sock person. This may surprise you. Like with tennis shoes and Converse, I hate to wear socks in my shoes. Like, I absolutely detest it. I have my entire life. But with hand knit socks, I love to wear them with Birkenstocks or just around the house. But I don't like wear socks. I would in boots, obviously, just for like comfort and not killing my feet. But yeah, I hate wearing socks and shoes, like store-bought socks. But I will wear hand knit socks in my Birkenstocks, and they bring me a lot of joy. And I feel the most myself when I'm wearing a pair of hand knit socks. I believe I've said that before, but here it is. This pair just flew off my needles. It was so fast. Again, size 0 Chagoo needles. I believe this was a 56 stitch sock. And I usually do cuff down. I don't have a preference. I will sometimes do toe up and I will sometimes do cuff down, just however I'm feeling. I prefer knitting a toe up sock. It's more fun for me. I wear a size 10 shoe US. And so getting that foot done first is really motivating for me because my leg is, I knit my leg pretty short. So I prefer knitting a toe up sock. I think it's really fun. However, I have not managed to put my heel in the perfect spot yet whenever I do toe up. I think that maybe if I do an afterthought heel, it'll be good. So I want to try that sometime, but just for peace of mind knowing that my sock's going to fit, I have been doing a lot of cut down. So there those are. I don't think I have anything else to say about these. Okay, another pair of socks. So I want to preface this by saying, if you don't know, then you should know that I have 2 huskies. And if you have huskies, you know what I live with. And I don't want to go into that too much, but there are just hair everywhere, and all of my socks are just coated in grass and hair because I wear them outside without shoes on. And I walk around my house where there's just dog hair blowing through the wind constantly. And so all my socks look disgusting. I'm sorry, that's just real life. I do wear my socks. Okay, anyway, so I was on Instagram it was over a month ago now. And it was very early in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I think it was because my baby was teething. And I follow Stone Knits on Instagram. She's my favorite sock designer. I think she's rather incredible. And I saw that she'd put on her Instagram stories that she needed more testers on her email list. And I was like, hello, please sign me up. And I signed up, and she sent out a test call, and I signed up and I got it, and I was so excited. So I test knit for her. I believe this is called the Field of Sunflowers sock set. It's 2 different sunflower socks. One of them is all over color work, just sunflowers, and then this one has it looks just like a growing sunflower. So here's my sock. Here it is. I have 2, obviously, but I knit these super fast. Colorwork socks are my favorite. When I knit colorwork socks, I do them 2 at a time, but not on the same needle. I will usually do the cuff on one and the cuff on the other, the colorwork on one, colorwork on the other, heel on one, heel on the other, and then I'll do the feet and toes. But here, I'll show you a little bit better. So these are almost the exact colors that she used. I am only working from stash right now. And so the yellow, I had dyed myself sometime last year. The brown was left over from a different pair of socks. And then the gray and the green I had actually thrifted a very long time ago. And this is how they turned out. I actually ran out of green and I had to put a little bit of the yellow on the toe. So here's the funny story about what happened with that. I always do 14 rounds of 2x2 rib on my cuff. I always do it. And it's always bothered me. I've always been like, Destiny, why don't you do 15? Just do 1 more round. That's such a nice number, 15. And so while I was doing the socks, I was like, you know what, Destiny, this is a test knit. You're going to be taking pictures of them. Stop being lazy and just do that 15th round of ribbing. So I did. And if I hadn't have done that, I would have had exactly enough to finish that toe. I don't mind, it's very handmade. I run out of yarn almost every time I knit something. But there it is. If I hadn't have done that extra round, we would have been okay. I knit the smallest size in these socks. And again, when I do color work, I go up to a size 1. But I think I need to stop doing that because I'm just such a loose knitter. I don't know. But I love color work. It's so much fun. I think that's all I have to say. This pattern is out now. That is why I waited to film this podcast. I was going to film it the 1st of August, but I was waiting till this pattern was out so that I could actually show you the socks because I wasn't allowed to show the whole thing. But there they are, my beautiful colorwork socks that make me very happy. Love them a lot. Okay, hang on, let me get a drink of water. I have more finished objects. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 more finished objects, guys. Okay. So, for Christmas, I lied, I just found another one. I have 6 more finished objects. Wow. For Christmas, my husband bought me some skeins of hand-dyed yarn from Explorer Knits and Fibers. She did a collab with Red Door Fiber and somebody else for A Court of Thorns and Roses yarn. And I love those books so much. And their first releases, I didn't get any. I missed out. But for Christmas, my husband knew how much I wanted it, so he bought me 4 skeins of one of the colorways. And I was a little bit regretful of that because it's not exactly my color. I bought the yarn just because it's a beautiful color. Don't get me wrong, but I bought the yarn just because it was A Court of Thorns and Roses and it was my favorite color that anyone had released. I did buy a sock set as well, which I have knit socks out of, and I loved them. But it's just not a color that I wear. I'm very much like an earthy browns, like greens, muted colors person. And this yarn is very like rich and jewel toned. So I hadn't knit anything with the yarn. I had been sitting on it for a very long time, just trying to decide what to do with it. And I decided to go with a ranunculus by Midori Hirose because I've knit that pattern 5 times. Last year, I made a podcast about it. Last year I knit a ranunculus out of a very similar shade in DK weight yarn. And I really loved it. However, I knit it all in white to then dye later and I didn't like how it dyed up. And then it ended up being like a little just too short for how I wanted it, and I didn't want to like rip it out and knit it longer and then dye it again. So I donated that one. And I have been really wanting another ranunculus in my wardrobe. And so I decided to knit it. So I'll show it to you, but there are a few things about it. Let me see. I think this is the front. So here it is. And this colorway is from Explorer Knits and Fibers, and it's called To the Stars Who Listen, I think. I can't recall. Okay, I'm about to hit half an hour. I'm going to stop and then I'll keep going. Here's a few things. Midori Hirose did go through and update her sizing on the ranunculus, make it more size inclusive, and I did not update my pattern because I really loved the fit of her original one and I didn't want to risk changing anything about it because I knew I liked the way it fit me, and I really like how this one looks under overalls. Okay, here's the thing. So like I said, I had knit a DK weight ranunculus last summer, and this is a DK weight. And I was knitting it, and I was knitting the yoke, and I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, why is this off? My gauge is pretty loose, but like I don't know, I was just knitting it and I was like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And then I was on Instagram and I was watching Explorer Knits and Fibers, and somebody was like, hey, why don't you have a sport weight yarn? And she was like, well, our DK weight is very light and it's very close to sport weight. And I was like, that's a really big bummer for me. So the fabric is not as like full as I had wanted it to be. It's very, I don't know, very like sheer. It's not see-through. I can wear it and it's fine, but the ranunculus I had wanted was like a very full looking one. So I might reknit this again in an actual DK weight yarn, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not sure that I'm going to keep it. I'm going to wait till it gets a bit cooler, more into the fall and winter time, and just see if it fits in my wardrobe. But I don't know. It's not exactly what I wanted. It's not exactly what I wanted, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. If I had already split for sleeves by the time I realized that it wasn't the fabric I was hoping for, and if I were to go back, I would probably hold it double. However, this used a little less than 2 skeins of that yarn, so I do have 2 skeins left, and I have a pattern idea for what I'm going to use those 2 skeins for, and it's going to be for my youngest, and it's going to be cute, so it'll be okay. It'll be okay. But yeah, there it is. My 5th or 6th ranunculus. Nobody knows at this point. Nobody knows. This ended up super fast. I think I did this in like 3 or 4 days. Yeah. I think I split for sleeves on like the first day. But the body on the ranunculus just always gets me. Excuse me. I don't know why. This is not a good time. The sleeves, I love. The yoke, I love. The body, I could live without. So, alright, let me grab my next finished object. My daughter is 3 and her favorite colors are pink and purple. I honestly don't know how that happened because I loathe I loathe pink and purple. And she also loves hand knit stuff. She is the most little knitworthy person you will ever meet. Every time I'm knitting something, she runs up, is that for me? Are you making that for me? Can I have that? I love it, it's so beautiful. And so I do knit her a lot. I like to knit things for all my kids. However, my oldest son is very particular, and he doesn't really like to wear wool next to skin. And so in theory, he's always very grateful, and he always asks for things for me to knit him, and when I give it to them, he's so happy and so excited, but he doesn't love to wear them as much. And I usually will have to put like a shirt under it. He's not allergic to wool. It's literally just that he doesn't like the way it feels. Even if I knit him a cotton sweater, he will still get a little bit picky about it. So my daughter and my youngest tend to get most of the knits, but I do try to make things for my oldest if he asks. Anyways, as I was moving everything downstairs from my upstairs craft room, my daughter found that I had some pink and purple yarns, and she was obsessing over them, and she kept coming in and like pulling them out and asking me to knit her a pair of socks out of them. So I did. I didn't have very much left. The pink color was a mini skein from a sock set, so it was either 10 or 20 grams, and I had used a little bit of it in a scrappy sock last year, but there was a little bit left. And then the purple was also left over from a different sock set that I had knit a full pair of socks out of, and so there wasn't very much left, and so I decided to knit her a sock tube. I cast on 42 stitches on a size 0 for her. And I had cast on a different number at first from a different pair of socks, but my gauge had tightened up since knitting those pair of socks in February, and so I had to cast on more stitches for her. She has a very wide foot as well. Very wide and flat foot, so I had knit her almost an entire sock, ripped it out, cast on new stitches, and did it again. But these only took me a day. So I cast on 42 stitches, and I knit a sock tube, and I just striped every, I believe it was 3 rounds to alternate the colors. And then I cast off in contrasting yarn. I was trying to keep everything even because I had literally the exact same amount of both yarns almost. And then I measured her foot, and I cut in the heels, and I did the toes, and I just switched everything up so that I was keeping it even. So you can see that like this one has a pink toe, this one has the purple speckle toe, and then this one has the speckle heel, and then I did the pink heel, and I barely ran out, and I used it. So I used every single yard of these 2 yarns that I had left, which made me very happy. And you can probably tell I didn't finish these very long ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and you can tell that they are very worn. She wears them most days. I usually have to hide them from her so that they just don't get destroyed, because she spends a lot of her time outside in the sand. And she also is like not mindful. She says that she loves being hot. She will wear her knit sweaters because she loves them so much, like when it's 90 degrees outside here. And I'm like, baby, aren't you hot? And she's like, no, I love being hot, just because she doesn't want to take off her pink and purple sweaters. So I feel bad, but I do tend to hide her socks from her when she's like outside playing, because I just don't want her to be so warm. But anyways, these took a day. So fun, so cute. Love them. Okay, my next finished objects. So these kind of have a long story to them. Let's chat for a minute. First and foremost, my goal for this year was to get down my stash. Buying a house, moving across the country, trying to fix it up. There's absolutely no money to set aside for buying yarns and craft supplies, which is okay. It is a little frustrating at times because I'm the type of person that tends to chase inspiration. And I'm very particular, and I want to knit what I want to knit in the yarn I want to knit it in. I've always been a very budget yarn person, but still it is like frustrating when it's like, ugh, I just want to knit this sweater and I want it to be this color and I can't buy the yarn. However, it is causing me to get very creative, which is a lot of fun for me. And my stash has been a point of stress for me. I do not have a big stash at all. I have practically none, but I do have a lot of like balls of yarns that I've thrifted. And then I have sock yarn. And so my goal for this year has been to get through it, and I feel like I'm doing an excellent job. I think by Christmas time I will be out of yarn, and so hopefully, family, if anybody's watching this, if you want to get me gift cards to yarn shops, I would appreciate it. But I have lots of ideas. I feel like I'm getting very creative with what I'm going to do with it. Anyways, I have a lot of friends that are having babies. in August and September. And so, like I said, I have been very fortunate to thrift very good yarn, and I have just a lot of like single 25 to 50 gram balls of like merino, cotton merino, silk blends, things like that. And I've been like, what am I going to do with this? So I have been knitting all my friends' baby bloomers with those single balls of yarn. And I have been using the Baby Bloomer pattern by Misha and Puff. I've knit this pattern so many times. It's my go-to gift one because it takes me like, I can usually knit 2 of these in one day if I need to. So this was out of a cotton merino that I did. This was also a cotton merino. And this one was a cashmere, silk, and merino blend, I think. Very luxurious. They're all having girls, so I knit them all like feminine colors just because my daughter wanted me to knit her something out of this yarn, but it wouldn't have been enough to get her anything substantial out of it. So, and she already has pink hats and pink mittens. But anyways, for all of these, I knit a size 0 to 6 month, the smallest size. I will say, these run very big. My youngest is 17 months, and he could pretty much fit into these. And he's not like a tiny toddler. So I just want to put this out there, like these run pretty big, but these are just such a cute fitting baby pattern. I love them so much. I don't gauge swatch for these. I figure it doesn't matter, the baby will fit into them at some point. They're definitely not going to be too small. So they're all a little bit different. I accidentally knit this one a little shorter, which is fine. They're all a little bit different though. And super cute. I do modify it a little bit by changing the short rows. This calls for a wrap and turn, which I hate doing, so I always do German short rows anytime I'm doing them. But aren't these cute? I love baby bloomers so much. I knit Wilder a pair when he was a baby. They were blue. They've got so much wear. Yeah, I love them. So I think that's all I had to say about these. But these use up like exactly a ball of yarn, which is perfect. There's like no leftovers. Okay, we're on to my last finished object, I hope. I feel like I forgot something. I was going through and making a list of everything I had finished since I last podcasted, and I just felt like I was missing something. And I can't even begin to think of what it might be. Unfortunate. Anyways, so speaking of Misha and Puff, they are a baby knitwear company. They also do a few adult knits, if you are not familiar with them. But they do a lot of baby knits that are absolutely beautiful. I've been following them for years. However, they're 100% out of my price range. That's the reason I started knitting, not because I wanted to knit Misha and Puff pieces, but because I loved hand knit baby items, especially like bonnets and little booties, and I just couldn't afford them. So I started knitting so that I could make them for my kids without spending, you know, a large amount of money on a hat. But they have these pants that I have been wanting for a very long time, and I haven't found a pattern similar to them. And the pants were very similar to the bloomers. And I have knit this bloomer pattern so many times, I literally have it memorized, and I thought, I know that I can not hack, but I know how to get from point A to point B to make the pants now that I've knit the bloomers. So I made up my own pattern. I used the same needle size that Misha and Puff used in their pattern, but because I liked how it would fit. But I had a skein of Cascade 220 in my stash. Couldn't tell you the color. Bought this beginning of the year. I don't know. And I knit my youngest a little pair of pants. They're so freaking cute. I am just so stoked with how this turned out. I did a 3-stitch I-cord, and then I put bobbles on it because that's how Misha and Puff does a lot of their things. Don't know that I recommend this. I kind of destroyed the bobble getting it through the eyelets. It was very hard and I was pulling it apart. I suppose next time what I could do is knit the I-cord, thread it through, and then do the bobbles, but every time you have to take it out, or if your kid pulls the I-cord out, you're just going to have to struggle with it. So I don't think that I'm going to be doing that again. We'll see. But per usual, I ran out of yarn, so I just took some worsted weight scraps that I had and added some stripes. I did decreases down the leg, and then I did a rapid round of decreases at the cuff, and did some 2x2 ribbing, and they turned out super great. And I think I'm gonna write up a little pattern for these because I want to make some for my oldest, and then I might as well make a pair for my daughter, just something cozy for her to wear around the house to keep warm. And if I did that, I would, this is like a size 1-2, I would say. I would knit my daughter like a 3-4, and then my oldest I would knit like a 5-6. And I'm probably gonna mod it a bit for him and do like an elastic waist because he won't want this. So those are tentative plans once I have time. And I think I would make his out of cotton, which is unfortunate because I feel like knit cotton pants wouldn't be the best. They'd be very heavy, but I don't think I could get him to wear little wool pants. But here they are. These were super fast. These took me, I think, 2 days to make. And I love them. They look very Tigger / raccoon to me. That's the vibe I get from them, but I think they're going to be just perfect for the fall. And I was super pleased because he would not let me try these on him. I tried to convince him to, but he absolutely did not want to try them on, which was fine. And so I just had to measure his inseam, which I've never done before. I always try things on myself or my kids when I'm knitting things to make sure they're the right length. But I had to just measure his inseam, and they ended up being like the perfect length, a little bit long so that they'll fit him for a while, and then I can always like cuff the bottom if I need to, because I think this is super wash yarn, so it might like grow a bit as he wears them. But yeah. Oh, so cute. I did German short rows for the back, and then I increased in the front and the back, if you can see that. So here we go. I'm hungry. My stomach just growled. I hope you couldn't hear that. Okay. That is all my finished objects. I'm sorry that was a lot. Relax. I was hoping that at this point I would have a finished sweater spin to show you. However, I don't. I spun a lot in July. I tried to do that whenever I had downtime at home because I can't take my spinning wheel with me, but I can take my knitting with me in the car. We live in the middle of nowhere, so it takes us just like, you know, half an hour just to get to Walmart to pick up groceries. And so I just take my knitting with me then. And I was trying to spin when I was at home, and I finished 2 full bobbins. And I thought I'm going to ply these together just to see, like, get a feel for the yarn, get a feel of what I'm doing. And as I was plying them together to make a 2-ply, I just didn't love how it was turning out. And so I kind of stopped. I'm like mid-ply. I'm looking at my wheel right now. I'm mid-ply, and I'm just trying to decide if I'm just going to stop and fill another bobbin and then do a 3-ply. I just am quite unsure, so I'm a little sad about it, and I've set it aside. It's a very, like, I'm spinning very, very fine, and it's all brown yarn, and so it's not been, like, super exciting, and it takes a long time to fill a bobbin, so the idea of doing a 3rd one. And then if I do a 3rd one, I make it a 3-ply, I just don't know that I would have enough to get a full sweater out of it. So it's on pause. I had the sweater picked out and everything that I was going to knit with my hand spun, which I was very, very, very excited about. And I just don't know what to do at this point. So spinning's on pause for the moment. Also, spinning is really hard on my back. You know, with everything going on, I'm just trying to take it easy. But I do have some works in progress to show you. Let's start with this one. My mom was in town in June, and she bought me a sweater's quantity of yarn, which I'm a little worried I might need an extra skein of, which is not like me. I'm very much the same person, like, hey, I'm just going to use what I have, and that's where I'm stopping. I do that with a lot of my sweaters. I usually just knit until the yarn runs out, and that's the length it's going to be. But I think I might need one more skein of this. So she bought me a sweater's quantity of Cascade 220, I think. And it's beautiful. Oh, this color is beautiful. It is very, very interesting. Like, there is just specks of red, and I don't know. I love this color. I'm a brown person, so I'm knitting the Louise pullover by Northside Knits. Again, this will be my 3rd one. Very excited about this one. I feel like this one's going to be a lot bigger than my other 2. I didn't gauge swatch. But I'm really excited about it. So here's the thing. I just haven't been interested in knitting it. This is like my comfort knit for a while, this sweater. That's why this is my 3rd one. It's because this was just all I was craving to knit. And this is 3 days worth of work. And so I split for the sleeves. I'm on a sleeve. I put the body on hold. And this is, I just haven't touched it. And I haven't felt a desire to touch it. And I keep trying to force myself to pick it back up. And it's just not working. I haven't convinced myself. So we're just here for the time being. Hopefully I'll finish it this month or next month so that I can wear it, because this is going to be so cute. I have an idea of some pants I want to make, and this with some pants would be I want to sew them. I'm not going to knit myself pants, absolutely not. But here we are. I believe I knit the size 2 when I knit this pattern. I talked about this more in length in my last podcast, but yeah, this is going to be my favorite one for sure if I ever finish it. I also should mention that there are 2 cast on numbers you can do for the collar. She either says like, hey, cast on this amount of stitches, and if you feel like that's too tight, cast on this amount of stitches. And so I always do the bigger stitch count because I don't like a super tight collar. So I always do the bigger stitch count. Again, I talked about this in length last time. I feel like this pattern is a little weird. Everything is the same. You cast on the same number. You do the same exact thing for every single size across. And if you're a bigger size, you just keep going. Like you're doing your raglan. And like if you wanted it in a size 3, you would just do a few more increases. Like nothing changes. I think it's a little weird, but it's fine. So I'm on my 3rd ball. And I have 1 more left. I got 4. And so I'm hoping that I can get both sleeves done with most of this and then work on the body. And it's superwash yarn. So I know that it will grow. Hey, look, I have a tag in here. That's so crazy. Yeah, 220 superwash wool. It says color 870. In case you were wondering, I need to know that if I need to buy a 5th ball. But I'm just keeping it in this. Oh, can I bend over? In this basket. There we go. All right, I have 2 more works in progress. I'm lying. I'm lying to you right now. That's a bold-faced lie. I have a lot of works in progress. I'm just not going to show them to you because my Cumulus blouse, my Cumulus top, the t-shirt Cumulus by Petite Knit, I have not done anything on. I haven't touched it. I'm not enjoying touching it. I don't want to touch it, which is unfortunate because I have a bunch of summer knits I want to do, even though it's August and it's going to get cold soon, and I literally have not let myself do the summer knits because I feel like I have to finish that one first. But I'll finish it eventually. I'm not one to like never touch a whip, and I've split for sleeves. Like that's the hard part. I just have to do the body now, so I'm going to finish it eventually. I just haven't touched it in a very long time. And then what else do I have? I started a mole. A little stuffy for my son that I also didn't finish. Knitting stuffed animals I do not enjoy, and it's also very painful for me because you're usually knitting at a very dense gauge and it causes a lot of wrist pain. So I knit the head and I haven't touched it since. And then I started an Ingrid sweater for my youngest that I also haven't touched in a while. It's been over a month, so I'm just not going to show those to you. Plus I've had enough finished objects that I've talked about, and there's dog hair all over this project bag. So 2 more works in progress to show you. Okay, let's see if I can get this bag open. All right, so this is some self-striping yarn that I thrifted a few months back, probably in like March or April. April sounds right. I was so lucky. So my local yarn store back when I lived in Arizona was called Tempe Yarn. I went to Goodwill. Bags and bags and bags of hand-dyed nice yarn that literally had tags on it from Tempe Yard. Somebody must have donated their stash. And so this was hand-dyed self-striping sock yarn. It didn't have a ball band on it, but I just knew what it was by looking at it. And it's been sitting there, and I've been wanting to knit it up, but I've just been unsure because I didn't know what colors it was going to be. However, after I knit my daughter's socks, my oldest one was like, can you please knit me a pair of socks? And I was like, sure, what do you want? And he came over and he picked this out and he said, I want this because it's a rainbow, but I want red in it too. So I cast on a pair of self-striping socks for him. And since there was no red in it, I added a red heel and a red toe. Red and green are his favorite colors. So here it is. I am like literally so obsessed with this colorway, and I'm mad at myself that I haven't knit it up yet because it's so cool. So I love this little speckled bit. I have not had any self-striping yarn that has had a speckly stripe. I know people do it, but I just haven't had any yet. And the fact that I thrifted this for literally like, I got like a big bag for $5. So that's just so incredible. I'm so excited. So I finished the first sock. I got the leg and the heel done for him, and then I started having really intense pain and I had to stop. But I tried to rush through the foot because I needed my needles for something else. So I've got the first sock done. He is 5, and I cast on 48 stitches for him. I tried this on him the other night while he was sleeping. It fit very well. I don't know how many rounds of ribbing I did, maybe 10. And I did a shadow wrap heel. And yeah, I love this sock. And so this is what I have left. I will definitely be able to get myself a pair of socks out of this. However, my husband has been eyeing this yarn. The other day he came up to me and he goes, oh, I was just counting and I only have 2 pairs of hand knit socks. And I said, that is so crazy. Weird how that happened. So he has requested several more pairs, which I was planning on knitting him anyway, and he prefers DK weight. He has a pair of fingering weight and he has a pair of DK weight. He prefers the DK, which makes my life easier. So he picked out some yarn and I'm going to cast on his socks after I finish these and my other sock. So my sister is coming to visit me. She will be here tomorrow and her birthday is on Wednesday. I wanted to knit her a pair of socks for her birthday because she loves socks, and I knit her a pair for Christmas last year. And so I cast them on. However, I would have already had them done by now if I wasn't in so much pain. It's been very frustrating. So I cast on, I did a 60 stitch sock for her just because I believe her foot's a bit wider than mine. I have a very narrow foot. And I'm doing a shorty for her. I think that's more of like her preference. So I did 15 rounds of ribbing for it, shadow wrap heel. Now I'm just knitting the foot. I was noticing that the way I was holding my long circular needles was causing a lot of pain when I was doing magic loops. So last night I switched them to tiny circulars. I don't enjoy knitting on these. They are a lot slower for me, but I am not struggling as much with pain. So I am going to try to finish these, and then when I get to the toe, I'll switch back to my magic looping. But these are hopefully I can finish most of the first sock tonight. It's Monday, and then hopefully I can work on, and on Wednesday we're gonna just pray that by Wednesday I can have a pair of socks done. That's the goal. But there we are. I'm using that same yarn, Emma's yarn, so that we'll have matching socks. I think I might run out of it because I didn't do any contrasting heels, toes, or cuffs on my socks. And I wasn't doing it on these. So I'm just going to knit as much as I can. And then if I run out, she'll have like half a sock with a fun color in it, which is fine with me. I think that makes it look handmade. I don't know. But yeah, this is how much I have left. I think I should be able to get pretty far, and maybe I'll just do a fun color of toes just to be safe. I just don't have any yarn. I felt like that went really well with this. So we'll have to see what I can do. I'll ponder it. But this is my main work in progress at the moment. And then I'll switch to this sock. Then I'll cast on a pair of socks for my husband and hopefully finish that sweater because I have a colorwork sweater in my head that I really, really, really want to make. I don't know. Like I said, I'm always chasing inspiration. What do I feel like making at the moment? I feel like that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Things are going good. Life is going good. August is halfway over, which I am so excited about. For me, fall starts on September 1st. And me and my husband were just this morning talking about decorating for fall and putting pumpkins on the porch. And I'm so excited. I'm very excited for the weather to get colder. I feel like I have a very hard time staying motivated in the summer. I realized it this summer being here because it's so significantly cooler here than it is in Arizona. But it's still like relatively warm. And I realized I just really struggle with feeling myself in the summertime because I'm not wearing the clothes that I love to wear. I love layering, I love wearing sweaters and jackets and flannels. And when I make my own clothes, those are the kind of clothes I make. I like to wear pants, or like I made vests to layer with tops I've made, overalls with sweaters under them. Like I just feel so happy and so myself. And so in summertime, I really struggle because I feel like I look in the mirror and I'm not wearing clothes that make me feel as good. So I'm just very excited to get into colder weather so I can wear my clothes. And then hopefully next summer, I will be more mindful and start sewing and knitting clothes that I love and kind of still film myself in, so that I have things that I enjoy wearing, because getting ready is a very big motivator in my day for me, and it helps me get the day started and stay on track of things. And when I have clothes that I'm just like, man, I'm just gonna throw this t-shirt on, it's definitely not the same. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about. I think that's all I'm going to say. I will try to have as much stuff as I can. Links down below for you. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.